So evaluation question 4 is all about how did I use media technologies in the construction and research, planning and evaluation stages of my project. So in terms of digital technology, it's probably played the biggest key role in the overall general consensus with regards to my whole project. It's enabled me to gather enough research about various elements within the pre-production stages as well as the post-production and during production. But overall it basically has just allowed me to effectively understand what I've wanted to do with confidence. So the use of different elements such as like Blogger, YouTube, all of this. It's basically just allowed me to move on to the production stage with confidence that I know what I'm doing. So first off, I'll be talking about Blogger, which was mainly used during the pre-production stage, but obviously during the production and post-production stage, because this is where I stored all my work for the blog. So Blogger basically was the first media technology that was used in terms of anything. So it's where I posted every single element, including my research, genre specifics, all of this kind of thing. I basically just recorded and stored every piece of work I completed here. So that also included embeds of my film and my ancillaries. Blogger was the most frequently used media technology for me, just because this is where, as I've said before, I stored all of my work. It allowed me to store all of my content on there, but also because it was a blog, this means it was online, so it's accessible to anybody, especially people for marking the work and those who wanted to view it for inspiration, that kind of thing. It was just so easy to access. You could just click on my blog, use a link, whatever, and just access all of my work. Especially for my teachers, this was the most helpful because they could mark it quickly and efficiently without me having to hand in any kind of work. It was all there ready for them to access. So it means that people can leave comments on there as well. There's a section for people to leave comments and feedback, which also helps with my work because I can take on board what they've said and adapt this to my work. Yeah, it's just basically been really easy and helpful in all stages of my project because I don't have to have any actual physical work to hand in or any of that kind of thing because it's just all online and I don't have to worry about me losing anything. YouTube was also another media technology used during the pre-production stage, but again also post-production and during production. This website was very influential with regards to my research. So what I mean by that is that it was used to access other music videos that were like critically acclaimed, so from big pop stars, that kind of thing. Yeah, I was able to just look at their work, gain ideas, take on board this, adopt this into my own research and my own work. But YouTube is mainly used for its ability to share video content efficiently, and everybody all over the world will know what YouTube is and most of the time will use YouTube because it's such a widely used forum. Just everybody knows what it is. It's so easy to access any kind of videos. People can make vlogs such as this one. People can upload videos that they've made, vines, memes, all that kind of thing. It's just so widely used, and because of this I was able to post my own music video on this, gaining more exposure, but also obviously look at other videos that have been on there. So due to this I could gain as much inspiration as I wanted from previous works, but obviously I also used YouTube to upload all of my own videos. These included my rough footage, my editing process, and obviously my actual music video. But again, it's used by millions and gives my music video exposure and allows audiences to view and comment with absolute ease. So YouTube also has a comment section where people can leave reviews, tell me what they think, give me feedback, improvements, all of that with ease, and I can take this on board again and adopt this into my music video if I wanted to. Another forum used was Google, and this was mainly used in the pre-production stage, but if I had any questions or any of that kind of thing, again, I'd use it in post-production and during production. But Google was the main search engine I was using to search anything I was unsure about. Mostly questions. I had to Google things about how to use certain buttons on Premiere Pro. I had to Google the conventions, codes, that sort of thing. And this was just the main search engine that I used, just because it was so easy and available at the time. But yeah, this gave me many options with regards to questions that I had, pictures that I needed, just anything that I was unsure about. I could just type it into Google and it'd come up with some sort of answer, solution, or the content that I wanted to view. SlideShare was also used during the pre-production stage for me, but during the research stages it proved most useful because it enabled me to upload my PowerPoints. So I was creating PowerPoints including information about pre-production, such as genre-specific research. I completed all these on a PowerPoint, but I was unable to embed these into my blog without the use of a separate function, which ended up being SlideShare. So I used this to embed them into my blog, but without this I wouldn't have been able to do that. I just had to take screenshots of the PowerPoint and put them in there. But with SlideShare I could have the actual PowerPoint on there that people can click on and go through it. But yeah, it allowed for easy viewing for those who wanted to view my PowerPoints and content, but that mainly included research about music videos and ancillaries. But yeah, they could view this directly from my blog as opposed to having to use an external link. Again, email was used during the planning stage. I mainly used my own personal Gmail account. This was just to transfer materials from my phone to my laptop, or vice versa from my laptop to my phone. These mainly included pictures of my initial ideas, just things that I'd drawn out and just took a snapshot on my phone and needed to get them to my computer. And I found the easiest way to do this was just through the use of email. But I wish I had created a separate email account because it did get mixed up with my own personal emails. But in the end, it wasn't really the end of the world. I just sort of deciphered between the two and filtered out all the stuff that was for school and all my own personal emails. But yeah, this was just the easiest way for me to transfer materials from different machines, basically. I could just transfer anything really. So now moving on to the production stage, the first software I thought I needed to mention was Photoshop. And I used this to create both my ancillary products. So the initial ideas that I originally planned required direct manipulation, so I couldn't just draw out what I wanted, that kind of thing. I needed to combine the elements together, and I thought to do this Photoshop would probably be the best option as it gives the most options with regards to how I can edit this. So by using Photoshop I could add, remove, change anything I wanted to using the tools that were available within the software. It made it really easy just to complete my products, to be honest. If I'd used my own hand and just drawn them out, it wouldn't have looked effective and professional as doing it online and on Photoshop. So using this just made it really easy to give it this professional look and solidify the fact that it was in fact supposed to be for a music video, to promote it at the end of the day, because I was able to create this during the software. But to be honest, I did have a bit of trouble initially with Photoshop. I found myself having to Google a lot of tutorials with regards to how I did certain things. In the end, it was fine. It didn't really matter because I pushed through it and managed to create them in the end. But yeah, I did have a couple of queries that I needed answering if I was at home by myself, whereas if I was in school I could just ask a teacher and it wasn't a problem. But at home I did tend to find myself watching a lot of YouTube tutorials on how to do double exposures, that kind of thing, and also how to manipulate the silhouette imagery to look as though it had an image inside of this. That was probably the thing I found the most difficult. But I did have a bit of previous experience from last year because I used it during my AS as well, so using the knowledge that I already had I could get by with just the minimal tutorial videos and not having to ask for as much help. Another element used within the production stage was in fact After Effects. Now this wasn't used by many other people, but I used this to create the shot of the pregnancy test to make it look positive. The reason I used After Effects was due to the fact that I had previous experience from this last year, which did help with my knowledge because I had previous experience and sort of knew what I was doing. But as I said, I used After Effects to create the positive effect on the pregnancy test because I couldn't have a real life one. It was a safeguarding issue within school premises. So I created a blog post on how I did this, but basically I used After Effects just because I found it easier to create this as opposed to something like Photoshop, because it was in fact a video and not an image, a still image. Finally, during the production stage was obviously Adobe Premiere Pro, which was the software I used to edit my music video on. It just enabled me to edit all my footage together that I collected. So the raw footage that I'd gone out to external locations to collect, I just popped it all into Premiere Pro, put it in a sequential order, and edited all this together using colour grading, colour correction, and all the transition between individual clips was all created using Premiere Pro. And again, I had used this last year during my AS to create the opening of a short film. So my knowledge was quite extensive with regards to how I would execute it and what I would use and why I would use it, because I had already done it last year and knew what I was doing. I did have to have the odd bit of help or tutorial video just to solidify this and make sure that I did know what I was doing and I wasn't going to get it wrong. But other than this, I didn't really have to stretch my abilities very far because I knew what I was doing. I'd had previous experience. I found the tools that I needed with very little effort because on the toolbar it's very self-explanatory and I knew where everything was. Like, I had to use the quick selection tool a lot, eraser, fill, that kind of thing. It was all pretty obvious because there were symbols and logos, but yeah, it was very basic. I knew sort of the general gist of what I was doing. Just sometimes I had the odd bit of trouble, but that was the case with many of my other aspects. But in the end I did push through it and I managed to create a solid music video that is now complete. With regards to the evaluation stage, I did use SlideShare again to help transfer my PowerPoints into my blog. So I used SlideShare again to embed this into my blog, but the main software I used for the evaluation stage was that of Prezi, and I found this really useful in the sense that it just shook up my blog a bit and made it look a bit different without having just a basic blog post. Prezi was sort of like a PowerPoint, but there were loads of different templates, so it made it more interesting when clicking through because there are effects that went with it. So yeah, I used Prezi quite a lot during the evaluation stage, but I also did use it during the pre-production stage with regards to planning, and I used this for my props and makeup as well. So I created just a small Prezi, which effectively is the same as a PowerPoint. It's just on a different software with different methods of how it goes through the process. But I mainly use this in my evaluation stage and my pre-production stage just to gain this information across to the audience in an interesting way that shakes up my blog and makes it look a bit more interesting without just having basic blog posts of writing text, just having to read through this. It just makes it more interesting and enjoyable to read. It was also really easy to use in the sense that I found it useful because it was essentially just, as I said before, it was essentially just a PowerPoint in a different manner. It was really easy. I just had to work out how to get them to flow with one another. So sometimes using a template, they didn't give you enough circles to add information in, so I'd find myself constantly adding in other places to add information. But after I'd understood how to do this, it was fine. I knew what I was doing, so it just made for easier editing, really. So yeah, that's evaluation question 4.